generations. And now, the power of two restores the one.
We got a bidet! Hey everybody, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, we're talking about the new movie Imaginary today. This is a PG-13 horror movie that just came out about imaginary friends that are up to no good. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you some non-spoiler thoughts and opinions in the beginning for about the first 10 minutes or so, and then we're going to talk about the movie in more detail with some spoilers. So I will say, for my impressions, I didn't really know what to expect from this movie. I know it's a Blumhouse movie, so that gets us excited. We love Blumhouse. I think Blumhouse and A24 are kind of like our studios where if they made something, we're going to be there. So that's basically all that I was going off of. I saw a preview for it, but I kind of felt like we didn't get much from the preview. It was just kind of, there's something going on with an imaginary friend and a teddy bear. And so we're going to find out when we go see the movie. So I would say after watching the movie, I didn't really think it was even an average film. I sometimes really worry about horror films that are PG-13 just because they have to target a younger audience when they're doing that. And so not only do I think that they targeted a younger audience, but I also think that there was just some technical things that just didn't click. I was telling Sarah after the movie that I felt like the actors just quit after halfway through the movie. There was some acting that was very stale. It seemed like almost AI was the one doing it. There was no emotion. There was just a line being said and then nothing came of it. So I thought some of that stuff was iffy. There were some things where I was thinking, I bet this kind of a twist would be interesting, or I'm really hoping this character does something and we get like a first twist about the halfway point of the film. And once I learned that twist, I was kind of like, well, okay. And then when we get to the next one, I felt like that was kind of what I was wanting. But by the time that I noticed that there wasn't going to be much focus, I had already kind of given up on it. And so I don't know. I just feel like this movie was kind of a little bit all over the place. And what I also thought was kind of interesting, and then I'll turn it over to Sarah, was that the way that they deal with this is exactly how they dealt with a creature or presence in a separate Blumhouse film. And I thought that was very cheap and honestly dumb because I didn't like it in the other movie. Definitely wasn't gonna like it in this film. So I'll talk more about that when we get to the spoilers section. But ultimately, like I said, I thought the acting was pretty subpar. Um, and just the film just didn't do it for me. So, Sarah, what are your thoughts? Because I know you were on a little bit more positive note than I was.
I thought it was all right. Um, I felt like the movie felt very long. It's got a runtime of
It did feel
an
long.
hour 44, which for a horror movie is actually pretty long. Most horror movies are usually around the like hour 20, hour 30 mark. Um, there were definitely some times where it was suspenseful, and I could appreciate that. There was definitely some times where there was a lot of imagination and like crazy, creepy looking things. Um, and so I really appreciated that. When the some of the creatures that they encounter that are trying to kill our main group, um, They actually looked pretty scary, and so I thought that was pretty well done. Uh, but I do think you have a point that some of the acting was maybe a little stale, and so I was kind of looking into the cast and what their backgrounds are and whatnot. And so kind of our main family, right, is a mom and dad, the dad's two daughters, and then she's actually the stepmom, right? And so the dad has been in quite a bit of things. He played the character Jesus in Walking Dead, but he's not really in this movie a whole lot. The stepmom, she is one of the main characters. She's been in a good handful of things, but nothing that's like a major breakout role, at least that I think she's like really well known for. I think the thing I saw that was probably like of most importance that I saw was one of the Jurassic World movies. But do I remember her from that? No. Then you've got the two kids, right? One is a child. She's like 5 or 6, so she's not going to be in a whole lot. And she did pretty good for a kid. But then the other is a teenager, and she's only been in two other things ever, and they were TV shows, one of which only was for a couple episodes, and the other one was about 20 episodes. So not a whole lot of background. So when you have this hodgepodge cast where the only character that has like a serious um history of acting and really well-known roles, and he's barely even in the film, you're gonna struggle, right? It's gonna be either one or the other. It's gonna be a really struggle or it's gonna be really great. And this is gonna what's gonna break these actors out. And I feel like this one was a struggle. They just didn't really hit the mark. Um,
What I think is interesting is I thought I had remembered that Blumhouse was either owned by or is in partnership with Universal, which is who made the Jurassic World movies. And that is true. I just looked it up. It said since 2014, Universal has handled most of the films being distributed for Blumhouse. So I kind of wonder if maybe that's how she got the role, is, she was already in with one company, and this was kind of an easy way to get her some more screen time for the mom, that is. But
let me ask you this. Being that it's a PG-13 movie and made by Blumhouse, there's another movie fairly recently that hits those two marks and is in the same genre. That's Five Nights at Freddy's. It's also made by Blumhouse and it's PG-13. How do you think it falls in line with that film?
well, I will say, because I don't know why, I think it's becoming more popular as of late, but not Five Nights at Freddy's didn't do this, but this movie did use its one F word, so that was kind of interesting. Um, but yeah, thinking about Five Nights at Freddy's, I do think this movie was more scary than Five Nights at Freddy's. I feel like I feel like Five Nights at Freddy's should, and I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but the games are way more scary than that film was. And the games aren't, I don't think they're rated M, are they? Rated like T or something?
I'm not sure.
Because like
I'll
kids
look.
play them.
Um, sorry, it's kind of hard to find because it just wants to pull on the
Like,
Apple Store. It's for ages 12 and up.
okay, so it's rated T for teen. So, like, I feel like that game could have been a lot better because even the source material that is geared towards teenagers is way more scary and involved than that movie was. But looking at this movie, I feel like they did better in the sense of it being PG-13 and being more suspenseful slash scary. So I will give it that credit. Um, I also think it's kind of nice because in Five Nights at Freddy's, they used a lot more practical effect creatures, like for the different animatronics. I think there was a couple of scenes in this movie where the creature that was the bear, I'm pretty sure those were uh, practical effects. Like it was an actual suit. It sure looked like it. It did not look CGI one bit. So,
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at with the creatures actually looking scary. Like they looked realistic.
yeah. So I think there was a couple of spots where it probably was CGI, but towards the end of the film, there was an instance with the evil being, and I'm pretty certain that one was practical. There was a spot in the middle of the movie that was used as kind of a jump scare that looked like it was a CGI creature, but I don't know, I could be wrong. Um, but I think there was one other thing. Don't remember what I was going to say. There was something else I wanted to say about it, but I don't know. Maybe it'll come up
I'll jump
later.
right into ratings. I'm at a 5 for this film. I feel like it was pretty average. There wasn't anything that made it super spectacular, and the things that did make it good, I think balanced out pretty equally by things that made it not so great or kind of stale or bland or boring. So I feel like it's pretty balanced. So I'm at a 5.
I'm at a 3. The beginning. So here's kind of where I'm at. After watching the film, and even when I was going along with the film, if you think about it, probably the scariest thing in the whole wide world is our own imagination. When you're sitting at home and maybe you're home alone, your imagination can trickle if you hear something that was, downstairs or whatever, and maybe it's just a creak in the house. And then your brain starts to make things seem scarier than they really are. Like it's nothing, but you make something of it. And so I feel like they could have really made this movie super interesting with people's imaginations and really starting to make some of these things like almost make us as the audience wonder, is this real? Is it fake? Should we be scared of it? Should we not? Just like we do in our everyday lives. And although they have one small kind of twist like that, the entire movie itself really didn't bring that together. So that's kind of where I'm at with the film. There was so much more I think they could have done. I think they could have done a little bit better with the writing. But yeah, I'm at a 3. I think it's below average. I would say in the beginning of the film, I thought the acting was pretty decent. I thought it was good. But like I said, as the movie was evolving and trickling throughout, um, the actors started to seem like they didn't care, and just the stuff that they were going for, just it didn't seem like it just wasn't a very good film. And
There was one scene that I think was pretty cringy. There was a couple characters that were trying to close a door, and so they're holding on to each other to try to get extra strength or whatever, and they like pause almost as if they're trying to show that it's like in slow-mo or something, but it's not actually in slow-mo, it's just the actors like standing still, and it was just such a weird cut. I'm like, why? What was the point of that? Why didn't you just show them try to throw the door shut? Like it didn't make sense.
Yeah, there is a handful of things in this movie where it didn't feel right, and because it didn't feel right, the movie didn't hit right, and so I feel like it just stumbled, tumbled, and then became a huge snowball that crashed into a wall, kind of a thing. So I feel like the movie had a lot of potential. When we're gonna go into spoilers here, so if you don't want any spoilers, go ahead and click away. But I'm gonna start talking about some spoilers before we actually talk about the movie in detail. So the thing that's going on with this film is that the movie opens up with our main character being chased by this creature, and there's a guy there that us as the audience don't really know who it is yet. It turns out it is her dad, and he's got like something going on with his eyes. Almost looks like maybe he's possessed. And what's important here is that the creature that she's running from looks kind of like a spider or something in a way. And so what she's doing in this film is she is a children's book writer, and the character that she uses for her books is a spider creature that looks very similar to the one that's chasing her in her dreams. And I had thought what would have been kind of interesting was almost taking like a different point of view of like Freddy Krueger in a way where like she was terrified from her nightmares, and your nightmares are like created through imagination. I thought there would have been some sort of cool blend between what was going on in her dreams and what was going on in real life. Again, with like some of the stuff in previous Nightmare on Elm Street movies, they try to, stay awake so they don't dream, so that this dude doesn't come after them. What if she started tripping out because she's having a lack of sleep and now her dreams are mixing in with the real world? Like maybe that's kind of that twist that we got going on here, but uh we don't really see anything from her dreams the rest of the way. That's just a way to kick off the movie. They do focus on basically a writing. It almost looks like a poem or uh, a child rhyme, whatever you want to call it, on the wall. And we learn later what that actually is, but it gets like a little flash of it. So we kind of know that this writing is somewhat important in the dream. But yeah, so she is a children's book writer. Her and her husband, like Sarah mentioned earlier, she is the stepmom to his kids. He has two daughters. And when they're in this new house, the youngest daughter seems to have come across this little teddy bear thing. And basically, with playing with this bear, it's kind of like an imaginary friend in a way. And so I was getting some Toby vibes from Haunted House or the paranormal movies where, the girl looks like she's having a tea party or something with the bear. And this was actually a scene in the movie where the mom hears the girl, of the stepmom, I should say, hears the daughter talking to somebody in her room, and she goes up there, and we actually see somebody in the room, and we're like, what the heck? And turns out it's like the girl's actual mom. Was she in like a psych ward or something? Like, what was going on with that? What did you pick up?
I believe so. Yes. Either that or I don't think it's that she broke out of a psych ward. I think it's just that they had tried to they knew that she was a little bit not right in the head and was I would say just unstable enough to not be a part of the family anymore, to not be a good fit to be a parent, but stable enough to not be in a psych ward, if that makes sense. But she wasn't supposed to have any contact or know where they lived or anything like that.
Right. And the
She
way that
found them because the teenage daughter had texted her thinking she was all better and she wasn't.
Yeah, so the reason why she ended up there was one of the daughters told her, "Hey, something's going on," because she was like, "I want to make sure my daughters are protected." Blah, 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 blah. And something, must have made her want to think that way. Maybe she was just having an episode. I don't know. But yeah, so like I said, we kind of there's like two parts of this movie going on. We have the stuff with the stepmother where she's trying to write more of her children's books. And then we have the side of the movie where the youngest daughter is interacting with this teddy bear. And we also get towards like the middle of the film, the older daughter sees like a cute boy and trying to have some sort of friendship relationship whatever, and when the parents leave, he comes over. He claims he has some very nice drugs and is trying to see if the oldest daughter, would um, trip out with him, and she doesn't want to. But what's interesting here is when he comes over and he comes into the house, the younger daughter, the sister, she comes up to him and is talking about how, like, the bear is saying this and that. It's the imaginary friend, and he like
Bear's name is Chauncey, for
yeah,
those
the
who
bear. The bear's name is Chauncey. Um, this dude is like mouthing to her psycho, like trying to tell her she's crazy. And we learn later something interesting about that. I'll save that for now, because there's other things to talk about. So she goes off to do her thing, and then him and the older sister go off to do their thing. And basically, he's being kind of an idiot, and he wants to drink some of her parents' alcohol. I believe the dad has already left to go do some like band touring or something at this point because he's not in the movie very much. Um, And so he's going through the alcohol and he drops one and it breaks on the ground. And so the girl is like, "Hey, you gotta clean this up, go get a towel." And this was disgusting, everybody. So the dude goes up to the bathroom to go get a towel, and while he's going to get this towel, he has to go to the bathroom. He has to go pee. And so he whips it out, goes to the bathroom, and something startles him. And he gets so startled that he pees on the floor, okay? And they make an effort to show us that there is a puddle on the floor. And so he does that. He finishes his business, zips himself up, and then I want to say what happened here is that the editing crew forgot to leave in the fact that he washes his hands, but he doesn't. He zips his pants and then wipes his hands on the towel that they're supposed to use, and then he some more stuff happens with what spooked him. So now he's curious of what the heck was that. I think he like sees a flash of the bear or something, if I'm
He
remembering
keeps
correctly.
seeing the bear underneath one of the towels, and then in the hallway under a towel, and then he hears this weird song coming from the string that goes into the bear's back, and we keep hearing that song throughout the whole film, kind of almost as like an anthem for the bear. I liked it. I thought it was fun. Just creepy enough.
Yeah, and this was actually the scene where I think Chauncey as a monster was CGI. That's my guess because it looked kind of like CGI because we see in the preview that scene Sarah's talking about where the bear is under a towel and it like comes at him. And once it gets to like his feet, it enlarges and becomes like a huge monster and roars in his face. Um, he probably thinks that he's tripping out on these pills that he offered to the other girl. But we get a funny revelation where I can't remember what created this instance, but basically, the mom of the daughter is mad at this dude for trying to give pills to her daughter or daughter-in-law, and she's telling the dude's mom about it, and she's like, "You're an idiot. These are my allergy pills." So he wasn't actually even tripping out. It was just allergy pills. So, which I thought was kind of interesting. Like, I've taken allergy pills before, and as soon as I saw what he had, I was like, is it really an allergy pill? Like the ones we have are tiny. Those were huge.
I don't know. It could have been a different brand or something, or I don't know.
I don't know either. I just
It was their attempt at humor. It was kind of funny.
right. Did you want to cover what kind of happens next?
It was really hard for me to keep a lot of this stuff straight because I feel like the movie jumps all over the place, back and forth between so many different things.
Well, you could go on to the list. That's probably a good next part.
So the weird like poem thing that Jeremy was saying they focused on at the beginning of the movie, it's like a checklist of things that you're supposed to do, that if you complete it, the bear will take you somewhere where you can have fun forever and you'll be safe and he'll protect you and it's gonna be like the best time of your life, right? But this list like gets increasingly harmful. Like first it's just easy things like a paintbrush and a bowl and something you eat and whatever, but then it's something you'd get in big trouble for and something that makes you really angry and something that hurts you. So the girl winds up trying to hurt herself because, it's trying to see how far will you go to get to the promised land, if you will. We
Essentially
also
what it is.
have an encounter with the neighbor lady, not the guy that Jeremy was just talking about or his mom, but a different neighbor, this older lady. And so we kind of, I'm gonna hodgepodge some different pieces of the film here to kind of make it make more sense. But essentially, this house was the stepmom's house when she grew up until she was about age 5 and she got taken away from her dad. So she is living in her childhood home. And I guess way back when, she had an imaginary friend bear named CB, which stands for Chauncey Bear. And so all these things that's going on with the daughter right now basically happened to the stepmom when she was a kid. She went through the checklist. She went on the field trip to the promised land or whatever you want to call it. And then her dad had to try to save her. And she doesn't really remember all this stuff because she was a kid. But as we go through things, between her kind of having flashbacks of memories and the neighbor, the elderly neighbor who has lived there since the stepmom was a little kid, I guess she's made it kind of like her life mission or goal to write books and to study the land of like the imaginary and like the spirit world of imaginary friends, thinking it's more real than just kids making it up. So between these different things, she's kind of putting these pieces together that the kids who go through this stuff, they wind up going missing because they go to this imaginary world and then a lot of them just don't come back. We kind of find out a little bit more about this when they have a therapist come to the house and she's recording the session and the stepmom can see Chauncey and the little girl can see Chauncey, but nobody else sees Chauncey. They just see she's holding like a thing of air, like as if her hands are empty, but really she's holding the bear.
Which was the callback I was referring to when the boyfriend dude was like calling her psycho. He didn't see the bear. And so it just looked like she was holding air or a friend in her arm. And, you know, that's kind of an interesting twist that um, it's an angle that us as the audience wasn't able to see until this all came to light.
Yeah. So that's kind of another one of the things that helps her, the stepmom, realize that, uh, kind of what's going on and going through and trying to figure out more of how this ties to her. The little girl winds up going missing, so they try to find her, and stepmom goes through her old childhood room and is like retracing all of her drawings on the walls, because I guess she was allowed to draw on the walls. And she's realizing through some of these flashbacks that were in her dream from the beginning of the movie that there's an area in the basement where the daughter had gone through and she sees this blue door. And so the blue door she recognizes from one of her childhood drawings. And so that's kind of how she recognizes this like portal. So she winds up going through the checklist herself to try to get into the portal. That way she can try to save the kid. This is where we get one of those kind of another little funny moments, if you will, because one of the things is something that hurts you. And so she stabs her hand with scissors, but I guess that wasn't real enough pain. So she just goes off on the stepdaughter because
Roasts her.
she's a teenage brat, she just doesn't like the stepmom just because she's the stereotypical kid that doesn't like their stepmom. We don't need you, we're fine without you, whatever. And so yeah, so the stepmom basically roasts her because they need something that hurts, and truth hurts sometimes.
Well, didn't she like rip on her mom too and stuff?
What she's saying that the teenager is selfish just like her mom was, and not really caring for the youngest kid, and putting herself first before helping the kid, and that's why the kid's missing.
I thought it was interesting because, like, if you kind of think about it, I thought the way that this worked was if you went through the checklist, then you were able to be granted into this door. Well, the stepmom, which I looked it up, her name is Jessica. Jessica is the one that was doing all the stuff before the pain, and the older girl, her name is Taylor. Taylor didn't do any of it. So why did the door open up if Taylor only did one of the things? Because she was the one that had pain. It wasn't Jessica.
Well, they say that Chauncey's always hungry, and we find out that he's hungry for imagination. So I think they see it as the more the merrier.
I'm just saying that if you have to go through this list to get through there, I don't think this part of the movie makes sense.
I don't know why stabbing your hand wouldn't be pain enough.
That I
I don't know.
know. Like if I had done that, if I had stabbed my hand with a pair of scissors, had the nerve to pull it out and then wrap my hand, I think I would have been reacting a lot different than what she was doing. She acted like it was a paper cut. And this is
Yeah,
right around
we
where the
didn't even hear her
acting.
scream. Like she didn't even scream.
Yeah. So
And I don't think they were sharp scissors either. So like, imagine trying to force a blunt object through your hand. Like, oh, no.
So this door opens downstairs. Well, okay, before we get to that, we are learning about Jessica's dad a bit. So Sarah, you were mentioning how when she was younger, all this stuff was going on. Um, her dad throughout the whole movie, I think he is in some sort of like either psych
Like an
ward
adult
or
foster care.
yeah, that was the next thing I was going to say. But he appears to like have no memory or he has some sort of dementia where he doesn't remember or understand things. And from what I gathered, what happened was is that when Jessica was younger, she went through the motions and he went to save her and he did. He went through the blue door, got her out of there, brought her back, and before he could shut the door behind him, the like creature looked in, they both locked eyes and they did something to him where it messed them up in some way, shape, or form. I didn't
The,
quite
the
understand all that.
creature can see everyone's imagination of everyone they've ever taken, which is hundreds and hundreds of kids. And so by locking eyes with the creature, they're showing you all that power. And he was not mentally strong enough to handle seeing all of that imagery. And so it like fried his brain.
Gotcha. So this is the part that I thought was really dumb because this is when I was referring to, they stole something from another Bloomhouse film that I also thought was dumb. So this is just like the latest Insidious movie. How do we defeat these people? Well, we shut the blue door, and it's important that this door is blue. So what does he do? He grabs a bucket of black paint and
It
he
just happens to be sitting there.
yeah, happens to just be there. And he paints the door black so that it seals off, so it's no longer blue. Just like Insidious with the red door, and it's like, oh, well, sorry, spoiler alert. If the door's red and the bad guys come through a red door, well, what if it was black? Same idea here. If they transfer between it because it's blue, let's paint it black. And then that's what seals it off. So I think that is so dumb. I think it's dumb that they stole it. And I think it's dumb that they copied their own. That's self-plagiarism, Bloomhouse. Self-plagiarism. It's a real issue. But yeah, so when she's younger, she went through it and the dad got fried. And so now that they're going through it again, basically what's going on, because I think we missed this part. The reason why they're going through this list and going through the door is because Alice, the younger daughter, went missing.
Mhm.
She just went off. Oh, and this is another thing that really drove me nuts from the film. It's coming back. So the little girl Alice like goes off on the stepmother and she quote unquote runs away. The older sister, Taylor, goes looking for Alice and she's like going down the streets, yelling her
She
name.
doesn't run away. She went missing from taking her nap.
The point is still here. Hold on. So she's okay, so she's missing. They don't know where she went. If she's not in the house, that means she ran away, Sarah. But anyways, so Taylor's going up and down the street yelling her name, trying to find her. What does the stepmom Jessica do? She goes in her office with her paintings and cries. Like, what the heck? Your husband is gone, his daughter is missing, and you don't want to do anything about it?
I think this all went way over your head. At this point, the stepmom was starting to figure out what was happening, and so she was trying to look through her drawings on her wall to see if there were any clues as to how to find the kid. She doesn't think that she just ran away. That's kind of the argument that's happening between the stepmom and the teenager is teenagers saying like that's all crazy talk. She just ran away. We need to go find her. And it's not until the teenager talks to the old lady neighbor that she realizes the stepmom was right all along, and there is this weird imaginary world they need to go find her in. But she's trying to look through her childhood drawings, and then that's where she finds CB and tries she so that finally clicks for her that that's for Chauncey Bear, and she's noticing that there's bear drawings like in her childhood drawings on the walls and whatnot, and that there's this connection. And that's when she sees the checklist written on her wall from when she was a kid. And it's all in her art studio is her childhood room because she tried to give her childhood room to the little girl, but the teenager wanted to be a brat and pick a different room for her at the very beginning of the movie. So that's why her childhood room is actually her art studio and not one of the kids' bedrooms.
I see. I will also say the name Chauncey and then B drove me nuts because there used to be the only other Chauncey I've ever known in my life was Chauncey Billups, and he was a Detroit Pistons basketball player. And so every time they said Chauncey B, I was like, it's not the basketball player, but this is driving me nuts. Because when she tells us what the B stands for later, and I was like, I swear if she says Billups, but no, it was Chauncey Bear. I was like, oh, okay. I guess that's all right. It still doesn't make me feel better about the film, but
It was awkward and this scene was pretty rushed, but that's what it was.
so yeah, now we got that background. So they're going through this blue door. We're probably as all over the place as the movie was, but we're going through this door, and it's a bunch of hallways. I leaned over to Sarah and made the little joke of maybe Alice went to Wonderland, and this place definitely looked like Wonderland in a way. Um, There's doors all over the place, stairs all over the place. If you have ever watched Yu-Gi-Oh in the past and you remember the inside of the puzzle, that's what it looked like too, where there's just stairs everywhere. Um, and I this was a little cringy for me. So it's Jessica, it's Taylor, and Jessica Taylor. Wow. And um the old lady. So they're all going through the door and they go into this imaginary place, whatever. And when they're there, the old lady is like acting like a villain in a way. Like they even give her a shot where because she's like, this is a great place. We could do anything here. And she like looks up and the camera like goes through, a big long tunnel or whatever, just trying to give her some sort of shot where, like I said, in my opinion, it seemed like she was a villain, and then nothing came of it right away. And so it felt very awkward because it didn't seem right. It seemed like one of those situations where the group is there and one of them does something stupid and it's supposed to be a comic relief thing, but I feel like that was supposed to be something serious because later on we do find out that she actually is kind of a villain in this case. She was waiting for Jessica to come back home so that she could lead Jessica to this imaginary creature beast thing and then basically tie that all back together so that the creature could have its way. And so what ends up happening is that this older lady ends up being the one that gets eaten alive. She is walking down one of the hallways, the door opens, and there's a creature, and it eats her, and like blood pours out underneath the door. So I thought her arc was completely stupid. And then
It was rushed in a way that made it really awkward and not good timing.
And I really think that's what added to like the bad acting part of it. I feel like they did maybe one or two shots and they were like, yeah, great, let's go. And the movie has to be done by March so we can get it out, kind of a thing. And so now it's just Jessica and Taylor, and they're going through all these areas trying to find Alice. They eventually do, and uh they have an encounter with
What looks to be the real mom,
right.
like
And
biological mom.
Alice though too, because I think it
Mhm.
was Taylor went into a room and there's like this little toy music thing that's playing. It plays that anthem you were talking about earlier. And
They're kind of merging two different parts of it, but yeah.
she sees like over by the door that there's a creature of some sort, like it's a black silhouette in a way. And she's watching on the wall this music box thing playing, and it's projecting a bear. And as it's going along the wall, it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it looks like it's gonna fill the shape of this big silhouette. And right before it can, she pulls the plug. And then what she wants to do so she can see what this thing is she doesn't want to plug it back in because she doesn't want this thing to take the bear picture to take the shape of what she's seeing. So she takes the like lampshade thing off of it and she wants to plug it back in, but she doesn't want to break eye contact with that thing. And I don't remember how it ends up happening. Does she break eye contact and plug it in?
She does, but as she runs towards, or as she's being, somehow she gets up close next to it, and at that moment, Jessica sees on the other, she's like on the other side of the wall,
That's
if you
right.
will, and pulls her through and saves her.
Yeah, she pulls her through the door. I thought that was kind of dumb. I'm sorry, I'm a Debbie Downer. You can go. You can take over.
No, it's fine. I was just gonna glaze over that scene. We we find Alice because we chase a puppy down that was like Alice's childhood, well, not childhood, she is in her childhood. It was her dream to have this specific dog, so they follow the dog and so they're able to find Alice because this is the land where all your dreams come true, right? So we see Alice in this room. It's her bedroom in their old apartment before the stepmom came into the picture. She's in a princess dress. There's presents everywhere. Her biological mom is there. It seems like everything's perfect and back to the way it used to be before everything went crazy. It seems almost like Taylor's kind of falling for it too. Like, this is what I've always wanted, you know? And Jessica, being the creative woman that she is, uses some random blue stuff from around the room to create a new blue door because the old lady had closed the original one. So they get both kids go through that door. Jessica's the only one who's still left in this imaginary dimension. She thinks that she found a way out, that the girls like pulled her through the first door that they had gone through, the first blue door. But we kind of get a flash forward to her visiting her dad in his adult care home, and the rest of her family's there, and everybody's saying these really nice things. And it's almost kind of cringy how awkward it is because things just seem a little too perfect. Everybody, like even the stepdaughter, the teenage one who's been hating her the whole time, is like, my life's great now because of you. And the little girl's like, thanks, mom. Like putting heavy emphasis that she's calling her mom for the first time instead of Jessica or stepmom or whatever. And so this was when she kind of realizes that she's still in the imaginary world because that's where things are supposed to be just perfect and everything you've always hoped and wanted for. So she pretends to go along with staying there forever, or agreeing to stay there forever because, uh,
Can I say one quick thing though?
yeah,
Did you notice that there was something else that told us that she didn't actually leave?
what?
So when they went through the door, in my brain, I was like, "Oh, what? You're not gonna paint the door?" And like her dad did. So when they went through the door the first time and they shut it, they never painted it. And
Mm.
so that was one of those hints of something still isn't quite right. And so that's how when I was watching this scene, I was like, that doesn't make any sense. It's not right here. And then it turned out to be, sure enough, it wasn't quite it.
Yeah, I guess I could sense that something wasn't quite right, but it didn't make sense to me, or it didn't click to me that she hadn't left. I thought she had left and something else was going to come after her, but it turns out she had never left. Um, So she agrees to stay there forever because that's kind of the compromise of you stay here forever, that's what we always wanted, and in exchange, we won't hurt your kids, right? Because she's throughout this whole movie preaching about how she just wants to be a good mom to these girls, and she just wants to be a good parent and take care of them and whatever, wants to be like the picture perfect mom. But do you remember how she does escape? I know it's with the help of the girls, but I don't really remember
She's about
how.
to be she's about to be like eaten or something, and Taylor comes in with a hockey stick and smacks it upside the head.
Oh, that's right. Yep, so Taylor had gone back into the imaginary world to come save her. That makes sense now.
Well, there's a chance that they never left either because um the one girl never left.
The kid
Yeah, I don't know if
or the
they actually
teenager?
both of them. Did they actually leave and she came back, or was it that the one girl was
Well,
imagining?
the kids had gone through the new blue door and they came back into the imaginary world, the teenager did at least, through the old blue door because it had never been painted over.
Hmm. 'Cause I was wondering if Taylor actually hadn't left because of the fact that she was there, but I don't know. Maybe she did come back.
Well, they had showed that hockey stick in the beginning of the movie. Um, she was putting it away in her closet because she wasn't going to get to play with her field hockey team anymore because they had moved to a new area. So it was kind of like a, oh, just another thing my stepmom ruined is now I don't get to play with my friends kind of a thing. And so we knew that that hockey stick was hers and it was like in her actual bedroom.
Gotcha.
Um, but yeah, so
She smacks it, and then
yep.
they're trying to get away, and when it seems like they're about to close the door, the creature grabs them one last time, and they're able to get away from it, and then they paint the door black because once
Oh
again,
yeah.
there's another bucket of paint right there.
This was the really cringy moment for me as the creature is like halfway through the door and they see some the little kid sees some gasoline spilling and so she grabs a match, but before she actually strikes it, this is when the monster is like showing all the visions of every kid's imagination in its eyes and so the teenager is saying to Jessica, don't look at it in the eyes, but all three of them are basically looking at it in the eyes. And this is when they're trying to pull the door closed, and it's almost like they're trying to make it be in slow-mo or have some sort of like special effect of like trying pulling really hard or something. I don't know, but it just seems so cringy. It's almost like they froze. It's kind of like those moments where, you know, they might freeze the frame and then the camera angle pans, but they didn't freeze the frame. It's the actors trying to hold still, but they're doing a really bad job of it because it's like they're trying to act in slow-mo. I don't know. Something just didn't add up right with the scene. It looked really weird, looked really cheesy, and it looked really cheap. I don't know if you got the same vibe there, but I thought it looked so dumb.
No, what I was thinking about in this scene, so Sarah mentioned, the little girl sees all these things that, you know, could burn the house down. I think it was a gas can or something. And
There's a gas spill on the ground, yep.
earlier in the movie, Alice was being taunted by Chauncey, where Chauncey wanted her to light a match, and she was like, "I'm not gonna do it." And here she's like, "Now I'm gonna do it." and then she lights the match, throws it on the ground. I do it that way. I did it that way because I thought, I honestly thought that this child actor did great the whole film, minus that one scene when she lights the match. But anyways, so she lights the match, she throws it on the ground, that gasoline catches on fire, and
Did
there
they ever explain where her burn scar came from?
who's burn scar?
The kid, she didn't want to light the match at first because she had a burn scar on her arm. Like she's afraid of fire because she got burned.
Okay, okay, hold on. Because I had thought that I know what you're talking about, and there's a part in the movie where I had wondered if she had like burned her arm on the stove or something. I can't remember what it was, but I was thinking maybe that's
So
what
throughout
happened.
the movie, this was sprinkled in at the very beginning. She's talking about not wanting her scar to be there and that Chauncey can heal it. And so the stepmom's trying to tell her about why scars are okay to have because it's a part of who you are and whatnot. And there's a different part of the movie where the mom has a tea kettle on, and so there's a flame under the tea kettle, and the kid's kind of scared of the
Hmm.
stepmom because of the flame. Then there's a different part of the film when the stepmom is still stuck in the imaginary world, and that's kind of on top of everybody being cringily perfect. Seeing that the scar was missing on the kid's arm was another indicator to her that this is the imaginary world because the scar is gone. And that was one of the things that the kid really wanted to have go away. But I don't know if they ever explained how she got the scar in the first place. It's obviously from fire, but what did the birth mom burn her? Like I don't know.
I don't remember, but what I can tell you is that I thought it was interesting because when the house is on fire from her lighting the match and, setting the gasoline on fire, they're on their way out, and like the kids were concerned. They were like, the house is gonna burn down. And then the mom was like, let it burn. And I was thinking to myself, like, if you set your house on fire, you're not gonna get any home insurance money, and then you're gonna be out of house. So that's kind of where my mind went, but they just let the house burn down. I think that was the end of the movie, right? Oh, no, no. Nope. So the mom and the two girls, because again, the dad is out on a music tour or whatever. They go to a hotel for a place to stay,
Mhm.
and they see what looks like a little teddy bear in a chair, and they're thinking like, "Oh crap, is it just us?" Because all three of them are like, "We can see it," but it turns out there's a little boy playing with this teddy bear. And so they're like, just in case, let's go find another place to stay. And our little cliffhanger is that because the teddy bear that he's holding at first, in my opinion, did not look like Chauncey. It looked like a normal teddy bear. But when we go to our final shot and the kid is saying something like the bear is hungry or whatever, and the mom's like, "That's silly. Teddy bears aren't hungry." That's when it looks like Chauncey. So I don't know. I don't know if that was supposed to be trickery, if it was supposed to be on purpose, or if I'm imagining things, quite honestly.
It did have a different name. I don't remember what that bear's name was, but it wasn't Chauncey. But I think they were trying to insinuate that it's the same cycle just with a different family because the mom didn't believe in the thing and it's just imaginary, but the bear's always hungry.
Right. So yeah, that was the movie Imaginary. This discussion is getting pretty long now. Um, I don't know. Like I said, the movie I didn't know anything about it, and usually that's when movies are better for me because then I have no expectations, and with it being Bloomhouse, I was expected to at least enjoy it. That I feel like in the past they're known for some pretty cool twists, and there was just too many things here that didn't hit. They didn't make sense, and like I said, it seemed like the actors gave up halfway through, and maybe the director did too. So I just think that's super unfortunate because Bloomhouse is up there for us. I will say, I think it's shifting a
They
little
used to
bit.
be one of my favorites, but they've been dragging lately.
I think A24 has overtaken Bloomhouse, but I don't know. Any last things you want to say about Imaginary?
Nope. I'm good.
All right. Well, that was our discussion on Imaginary. If you enjoyed this type of movie discussion, please subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We are doing at least 2 movie discussions a month, sometimes more. Just depends on what's being released and dropped, and if we're able to go on opening weekend, of course. Drops a like if you liked the video, and drops a comment letting us know if you saw Imaginary and what your thoughts were. Are your thoughts completely different than ours? Did you really like it? And if you did, why did you like it? What are the things that you thought were awesome? And then, as always, everybody, thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.